start with this. I hate asking the question everybody is asking of all the guys with all the COVID stuff. How close are you all to meeting that threshold or at all?
Yeah, we're not going to get into exact numbers today. And we're pushing our kids that direction. You probably think everybody does it, but families have personal reasons and things. So, we're in I would say, a constant battle, continuing to push it, and we'll continue to push as we get closer.
What are those conversations like?
Well, you got to be careful because we don't, really address it completely. We just recommend it, I guess, is the proper word.
Lee, I'm curious with Matt Corral. Obviously, he did some really nice things last year. Where have you kind of seen him grow this offseason, and does he just look more comfortable this time around?
Well, it was unique to have practice with him. We never had spring, so the fall just happened really fast. So to be able to slow down with him, have a spring, I thought that he was very mature. I would say grew more as a leader. Going last season, doesn't even know he's going to be the starting quarterback, let alone lead the whole team. So I think from a leadership standpoint.
You've had guys before who've had that off-season awards hype like Matt's getting now. What advice do you give him with handling all that and just kind of staying in business?
It doesn't matter. We've seen it handled well. We've seen it, not very well. For players, for teams. I always go back to when we were preseason #1 at USC as the head coach and didn't have a very good year. And I don't think we handled that very well because I think we kind of embraced that, too much. Versus just making sure we're, doing the work, because none of that means anything.
We talked to JT Daniels earlier today, and obviously he knows Matt from their time in Southern California. He mentioned his rocket arm, and you've obviously coached a lot of really good quarterbacks. I'm a USC grad, full disclosure, so I was there with Matt and all that kind of stuff. Does he kind of remind you of anybody in terms of, is it a Barkley, is he a Kessler, or is Matt Corral his own guy?
There's a lot of Matt's there.
So Barkley.
Barkley.
Yeah.
I don't know which one you meant. You said you were there with Matt.
I was there with Barkley.
Okay. All right. So you were there for preseason #1.
I was the sports editor that year.
Okay. I don't remember the question now. No, I know. I think he has a very unique deep ball arm. And I think, again, for not having a spring, having some receivers banged up throughout the year, a new system, I think that he's really good and really accurate down the field, and I think that we'll even improve on that, having an off season.
Touching on that and having the off season, is this, you and your staff, I know you were here last year, is this kind of like a reset where you felt like maybe this is your first true full kind of cycle with this program?
Yeah, I feel like it's our first year, even though I guess we're in our third recruiting year. I almost feel like it's our first year of that because kids are, finally on campus that we've had, that we've been talking to versus, when they were on campus last time, would have been that first class we just got hired and we're trying to sign, and with so many kids being mid-year, almost everybody was gone, a few weeks after we were signed or after we were hired here. So I feel like it's all kind of a first.
Speaking of that, I know you can't talk specifically about recruits, but it kind of seems like you're gaining momentum with recruiting with this class, with future classes, or do you sense that as well? It's starting to happen now that kids can come visit you.
I do. I would like to think that says something about our assistant coaches. That now that in our campus, now that kids can get here and they can see the program and meet the people versus being on a Zoom. I know it sounds crazy, but we sign kids and they literally got here and walking around and I barely recognize them, because I've only seen them on a Zoom and I've never met them in person, or even, signing a transfer just a week or two ago, and then meeting him once he's here. It's just kind of a strange one, it's obviously different than it's ever been.
Going off those 2 portal ads you guys had, just kind of what did you see in those guys? I know you said you wanted best player available when you're going through the portal. What did you find in those couple of guys?
Well, I just think, we're, like you said, at this point, we're looking at best players. It's not specific needs most of the time. If it's younger guys, now an older guy like the center, that was a specific need. But it used to just be old guys that were grad transfers, basically. And now you got potential young guys that will be there a long time. And so, you look at it, you may not really need that position, but you take somebody, because of the difference now.
Coach, being back here, how much have you changed from the guy that was at Tennessee?
Yeah, we were just talking about that. I go with Matt. 12 years ago. Would you say?
Yeah.
12 years ago. I barely remember the hotel. So that's been a long 12 years. A lot of things have happened. So I'm trying to lose weight so that I feel like the old Tennessee guy. Because I got motivated by I saw some Tennessee pictures last year versus my Ole Miss pictures. So I'm working on that. But I think you're just very different. Obviously, with 12 years, no matter what, but yet our own experiences, being head coaches at now the third place since then. In between that, being able to work for Nick Saban, arguably the greatest coach ever. So I think I'm very different.
Has there been much progress defensively this offseason? I know you mentioned it before and how nice it is to actually have a full offseason, but where have you kind of seen the defense kind of excel this offseason?
First off, just to have a spring. And I think if you look at defenses around the country that were in their first year, I feel like a lot of them struggled, as a first year staff. You weren't able to teach tackling, weren't able to teach the defense, obviously not having a spring. So I think having so many guys returning, having a spring, and then having some guys that weren't eligible, or Otis Reese that was, not eligible until the last few games, I think it made a big difference. And I see them, playing with a lot more confidence.
In some aspects, does it kind of feel like this is like the first real year for you here because of the stuff you just mentioned?
Yeah, like we said earlier, kind of feels like it's all the first year, even though, like we said, third recruiting cycle. So, it'd be good to get back to work here. Our staff comes back next week completely, so we'll get to work.
Are you guys through with the transfer portal with this particular year coming up?
You would think so, but you never know. With the deadline, you would think kids won't go in, but maybe you're still going to have some kids go in that just don't get the waiver part of it, or the immediate eligibility part.
How much are you expecting Jerry and Snoop to kind of enhance their role next season? What have you seen from those guys?
I think Snoop was very productive last year. He's had a really good off season. Ely's been hurt, so we didn't do much with him, but he seems like he's doing well now. And again, just excited to have the spring that we have, but now really have a fall that we know. We went into last fall into fall camp knowing nothing, about our guys. So at least we have more of an idea now instead of teaching basics. Maybe looking at how you can utilize guys in different ways.
In a perfect world, is Matt Corral running the ball more or less this year?
Less. I think anytime that you got a quarterback that has played at an elite level at times like he has, that we expect to do that. I shouldn't say anybody. I don't want the guy running a lot. There's a reason they don't run a lot at the next level.
How important is a healthy Jerry on Ely to your offense?
Well, I think to stay healthy so we can utilize in different ways, just in practice through camp, would be really, really valuable for us, to see what we can do with him because his speed is so unique. Can he do some, receiver stuff as well? So we have a lot of stuff to work. And guys, surprised they haven't asked about Plumlee, but
It's just about to.
yeah, right. That's what I thought was the first one. Excited to utilize him and see what we can do with him. For a guy to go and make big plays in a bowl game, having never played a position. Like I've said before, this isn't Little League where you just throw the guy in there and you say, hey, go over there and play. This is major college football against the top 10 team in Outback Bowl. So that'll be exciting.
Did it just take him some time to sort of accept that role or to think about it and say, yeah, this is something I want to do? I know he played baseball and you kept saying, we'll talk after baseball season. Well, if you don't mind me asking, what were those conversations like?
Yeah, like I've said before, I'm not going to get into too much detail. That's up to him, how much he wants to talk about. But we're excited that, he's embracing, what we've discussed. Shows that he's a team player. That's not easy. That is the one position. It is always hard for someone to say, okay, I'm going to go play another position. It's not like just move from safety to linebacker. So for him to do that, there's not, I've said before, many there's not many kids that do that anymore, and they'd be somewhere else. I'd take the ball and go home. So it says a lot about him and his feelings for the university. And he is a special kid, way beyond a player. I've said it before, you know, if Knox is sitting over there, nothing to do with playing. If he ends up like John Rice Plumlee as a person, I'd be really excited.
I know the spring was
Couple
weird
more.
with depth issues and everything, but with what you got to see from Kincaid and Luke, how much confidence do you have in those guys behind Matt?
We'll have a lot of work with them. You know, they did some good things. Obviously, Luke just getting here is difficult, you know, for a mid-year guy. So, you know, I'm excited about those guys going to work, because it's not just about preparing Matt that everybody's going to talk about. You know, we've got to develop our depth at all positions, especially that one.
What are
This
your thoughts on
program is-
name, image, and likeness, and how that can, you know, have a positive impact on the roster in the university?
Well, it's a positive impact for the players, you know, to be able to, you know, do all the work and get paid for it. So I think it's great. I think it's not a perfect system, hard to manage. You know, so I think we'll learn a lot as we go through this, but I'm excited for the players.
This program is always,
I'm not excited for compliance department.
this program in the really last 2 decades has always been on the cusp, always having a season where they, you know, turn some heads, been on the cusp, but never fully able to get over. I guess with kind of turning heads last year, particularly with the offense, how do you make sure that, you know, y'all kind of build on that and finally try and get over that hump and be a more consistent contender?
I don't think it's very relevant what was done before. It's like I say in recruiting, when people say, come here, you're a running back, and this running back played there 10 years ago. Well, you know, so that don't mean a whole lot to me. And so I don't really know what's been done about up and down. I just know we've got a lot of challenges, a lot of players coming back. We did have some success at the end of the year, and now we got to build off that, and we've got to handle a little bit of attention, you know, especially with the offensive players.
Thanks, guys. Appreciate you.